All hail the king, Weinstephaner.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. There's certain beers out there that are at the top of their genre. So for example, you have lagers like Augustiner. You have bitters like or English ales like Old Peculiar, you know, the top of the tree stuff, you know, the really good stuff, the Shepherd Neame 1698, you know, that stuff. When it comes to wheat beers, this lot here are up there at the top, and it's neck and neck between them and Schneider Weiss. You've probably heard me say this 1,000 times. I'm going to say it 1,001 times. These really are the best of the best. They're among the best of the best, put it that way. And what they produce, given their pedigree, is absolutely amazing. They're from Bavaria. They've been brewing since 1040. And that, I don't mean the time, I mean the year, the 11th century they've been brewing. Not Weissbier, but they've been brewing beer since 1040. They claim to be the oldest brewery in the world. That's disputed, but it's got to be in with a shout. The oldest continuous brewery, possibly. And what they produce is fantastic. It really is. This stuff, I think I was spoiled. This was one of the first Weissbiers I ever tried, and I don't think anything has topped it since. Schneider Weiss is neck and neck with this, but it's not better. It's as good as. The two are neck and neck in my opinion. What makes them so good? Well, they just get everything right. The ingredients, the balance, the mouthfeel, just everything is perfect. I'm not going to lie, I've tried it before. This is going to be a biased interview. This is going to be a biased review, and I don't care. This is the cap of the Weinstephaner Weissbier. Here is the label, there is the front, there is the back. I've tried this before, I have to say. They do it in Waitrose, they do it in Sainsbury's, which is where I got this. £1.85 a bottle. For that sort of money, you are getting probably the best Weissbier in the world. It's 5.4, it's a 500 milliliter bottle, so it's a pint more or less. And let's see what we got on the nose. Oh, it's just heaven in a bottle. Banana, clove, spice, tiny bit of malt. Just amazing. I'm drinking it out of a Tuka glass because I don't have a Weinstephaner glass. These ain't bad either. These are from Bavaria, the same place as these, and Munich to be precise. And they're not bad. They come pretty close, but they're not on a par. I don't think. They're just slightly below. By the way, if you're pouring a Weissbier, the trick is to keep it at that angle. I think is that 270? I don't know. I'm never good at maths. But keep it at that angle until the liquid comes right to the edge, and that's when you start tipping it very slowly. I've seen people review Weissbiers online and they end up with 4 and 5 finger heads. It's not meant to have that. It's meant to have a 3 finger head, 3 finger bulbous head, and the glass is supposed to preserve that 3 finger head. So that is pretty much what a Weissbier should look like. That head's dissipating quite rapidly, which is handy because it means I can get some more in there. Always give it a swig about, because you get sediment at the bottom of these. And even the cheapest Weissbier, apart from Erdinger, that fucking abomination, but all the others have all had yeast sediment at the bottom. Now, certain brewers say not to add any of the sediment, certainly British ale brewers, but with Weissbier, always get the yeast, because it is yeast sediment, always get that in a glass, because you're going to get much more flavour out of that. And just look at that. That is beautiful. That is like an orangey colour almost. Oh, it smells amazing. Let's get it down the hatch. It's just amazing. It is an amazing beer. You get the big bananas and clove and spice flavours. And there's a sweetness to it from the yeast. Then you get a bit of malt on the back end from it. The hops that are in here are pretty negligible. They're just drowned out by the yeast. But it's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. I lived in Essex for a year when I moved out of my place in London. I lived in a place called Buckhurst Hill, and there was a Waitrose opposite me, and they used to sell this, and I was drinking 4 or 5 of these a night. They just got so addictive, and they stopped doing them and brought in the dark Weinstephaner. And that was just as good, and I started drinking that as well, and it got to the stage where I thought, I've got to stop doing this every night. It was they were just that good. And I'd go, the mouthfeel is just perfect. It feels like it's naturally carbonated. I don't know whether you know, but in the brewing process where you've got the yeast are bacteria, and they burp, you know, as they're devouring the sugar from the malt. They burp, and that burp releases carbon dioxide, and of course that gives you your natural carbonation. But if you naturally carbonate a beer, it gives it a very, very light mouthfeel, and you've got that here. And this tastes like it's naturally carbonated. I know I'm going from 2 extremes, but Erdinger, that's not. That is artificially carbonated, and it tastes like shit. It really does. The mouthfeel is horrible. It's like drinking a can of Coke. That fizzy, horrible, just mouthfeel. It's aggressive and harsh. This is just so smooth. It's amazing, honestly. So what would I give this? Well, what can I give it? If I could, as I say, if I could give it 11 out of 10, I would. It's just amazing. It's one of my favourite all-time beers. I cannot emphasise to you how much I like this stuff. This is, for me, in the top 5. It's probably at number 1 for me. So that's how much I like it. And, you know, I like all other styles, you know. I like ales, I like IPAs, but for Weissbier, there's only 2, and that's Schneider Weiss and Weinstephaner. The Schneider Weiss I had the other day was the Minor Fest Weiss. That's probably the best I've tasted. Their original one is really good as well. I mean, you're spoiled for choice with Schneider Weiss. This, to me, just, it's like millimetres. They're just slightly shading it over Schneider Weiss. But until I tasted that Minor Fest Weiss, that was just as good as this. So it's neck and neck. But you won't go wrong with either of them too. And this for me is a 10 out of 10. And I would say buy it, steal it, just drink some, and that'll be it for you. You'll be on the Weissbier bandwagon. And remember, when I say beer is working class champagne, I feel sorry for people that think champagne is the ultimate, because for me, they're missing out. I think if you don't drink this, you're missing out. You really are. One of the drinks to drink before you die. Anyway, remember, and certainly in this case, beer is working class champagne.